If you're the non-money spouse and you think your attorneys may be taking positions that are fantasy world, or you believe your positions might be unreasonable, get a second opinion, especially with someone who's a collaborative attorney. Getting a second opinion with a collaborative attorney could really make sure that you're being reasonable and productive to move you on to your post-divorce life. Welcome to Getting Divorced Without Losing Your Mind. I'm Corey Shapiro. Appreciate you taking time to work on your divorce, not just getting lost in it. Isn't it so easy to get lost in your divorce? You're so upset, panicky, stressed, anxious, just want to get this over with, but your ex is just an animal. So difficult and making you crazy. Well, you're in the right place because I really want to bring you from that chaos to a little bit more clarity, to pull you through to your post-divorce life that you want. And today we're continuing with our divorce series on the budget. And we're dealing with money today. Money is so important because you're not going to be able to afford your lawyer if you don't have the money to have a divorce. And most divorces need attorneys, especially the difficult divorces, especially derail divorces over 3 years, which really is the focus of this podcast. This is not necessarily the collaborative divorce, but doing collaborative in conflict, where the other side's not collaborative, but you want to be collaborative. Okay, so let me give you 3 tips, 3 pitfalls to think about. The first one is the difference between the money spouse versus the non-money spouse. That's a key thing to think about, because the way the law was designed in most states is that for many, many years, the moneyed spouse would just overpower the non-money spouse. They can afford the attorneys, the good attorneys. They could drive the litigation. Things can take years. So after a while, the legislature got around and created a law that basically levels the playing field. And now the moneyed spouse can pay the non-moneyed spouse's legal fees, or at least part of them. Now, the money spouse and the non-money spouse, I think it was designed for the person who was working, making good money, and the person who was not working and just taking care of the kids. But it's not always clear, because if you're just a little bit different, just like 5 or 10% different, you're not really the moneyed spouse, even though you make more. So that was the way the law was designed. The problem is that attorneys, especially crafty, maybe ethically challenged attorneys, realized that if they can represent the non-moneyed spouse, and if they take extreme positions and really build up the case, really spend a lot of money unnecessarily, then the moneyed spouse is going to pay part of the fees. But because they know the judge is going to cut their fees, the judge is probably not going to give them, 100% on the dollar, they have to inflate their fees. And that's, I think, a big problem in divorce. You have these ethically challenged divorce attorneys who represent the non-money spouse. The non-money spouse is not paying the fees. So you have these big bills, and when it comes time to settle or trial, then you have to deal with the attorney fees, and that really becomes a problem. Now, I'm not saying every moneyed spouse is doing the right thing, being reasonable. There's a lot of moneyed spouses who are taking extreme positions, being aggressive. But if the moneyed spouse wants to be reasonable, wants to follow the law, and the non-moneyed spouse doesn't, then this creates a problem, because there's no incentive for the non-moneyed spouse, unless they just want to move on, to be reasonable. And if you're in one of those situations, if you're the non-money spouse and you think your attorneys may be taking positions that are fantasy world, or you believe your positions might be unreasonable, get a second opinion. Get a second opinion, especially with someone who's a collaborative attorney. Getting a second opinion with a collaborative attorney could really make sure that you're being reasonable and productive to move you on to your post-divorce life. Okay, that's pitfall number 1. Now, pitfall number 2, this is so important. It's a silent killer. We're going to call it block billing. Now, block billing is done where on your invoices, you're going to see a large expenditure of time. So let's say you have court and you're there court all day. So you have court 7 hours. Now that might be reasonable and you can verify that you were in court all day. So it was 7 hours. I mean, if court was an hour, you would see it should be 1 hour. That's block billing. It's no detail really what happened in court. It's just court 1 hour, 7 hours, and no one's going to challenge that. Also, if you have a deposition, let's say you're there all day, you put in deposition 7 hours. That's not a problem. But when the work is done in the office and when you don't see the work, then you wonder, well, what are they doing? And I have seen bills that say prepare a motion 8 hours. Now, I just find that highly unlikely that anyone spent 8 hours preparing a motion. Now, they might have spent like 45 minutes here, an hour there, 30 minutes here, 2 hours there, and then they jumble it all up and put it into a block billing. But if you get that, often, and you see that pattern, then you might want to question your attorney and get really detailed bills because they may be overcharging. And that's also how, if you do have a fee challenge, an attorney fee challenge later on, that's how you may reduce awards because it's unclear what they were doing. And then you just have to base it on a reasonable standard. So block billing, be careful with. Okay. All right. We only got one more to go, and it's the hourly billing trap. The hourly billing trap. There's going to be a movement. There's already some creative attorneys who are doing it, and they're moving to a flat fee model, which gives clients certainty. It gives you stability. You know your costs. I had a wedding last year. It was flat fee. I knew what it was going to be. We went to one vendor where it was deposit against a open-ended budget. That caused me a lot of concern. And I actually Googled it later on, and some bride had that problem where they didn't realize the contract. And there was a lot more than what was quoted. But the problem is it's hard to determine the costs of litigation because you don't know what the other side's going to do. Now, in an out-of-court context, much easier to do flat fee billing. Maybe in the derail divorce, if you're just getting retained to do, you just want an attorney to do a trial or prepare for trial, that could be flat fee. But the litigation can last years, and you don't know if the other side is going to make a lot of motions or not. A system that's being developed, it's not the best thinking, it's the best thinking we have now, is to do phased approaches to litigation. I'm not sure if your attorney would do that, but you can cut up a litigation in phases. You can say first phase maybe could be initial settlement discussions, initial financial disclosure before court. Second stage could be preliminary conference before depositions and discovery and additional settlement demands and additional discovery. Third phase could be depositions. Fourth phase could be pretrial conference. Fifth phase could be the trial. There's a way to do it. And this is not the best way. I'm just giving you a way that may work now. And you might negotiate with your attorney if you can do it in phases so you can get some certainty. It's an idea. Now, it's maybe a little too creative for some attorneys, but just trying to protect your budget here. I don't want to see you spend your kids' college education on your attorneys. Now, if you're going to say to me, Corey, I'm stuck in this divorce. I want to end. The other side's taking these unreasonable positions. Well, listen, I feel for you. And a lot of what I teach is de-escalating. And sometimes you have a crazy tiger and you're just going to have to be super efficient. Even if you have to have your attorney go all the way through trial. There's ways to be efficient and ways to be inefficient. And that's the key point here. Thanks for joining this episode. Thanks for being more creative, less reactive in your divorce. I'm Corey Shapiro.
Thank you for tuning in to the Getting Divorced Without Losing Your Mind podcast. We would love to hear your feedback. Send Corey an email to feedback@gettingdivorced.org. And if you've read his book, please consider leaving an Amazon review. This podcast offers general information only. It cannot replace legal advice. If you need tailored advice, contact an attorney licensed to practice in your area.